Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I am your host, Jerron Harrington, back to hit with another video. And today, we are here to continue Jujutsu Kaisen, The Curse of Daishi, based on the Heroes of the Morphing Grid series, Part 4. As always, if you're a fan of the channel and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. So, in case you're unaware, we have a new mix-up in the schedule so far. On Mondays, we are going to be doing Jujutsu Kaisen Curse of Daishi. On Tuesdays, we are going to be doing Danmachi, What If Bel Crenel Was Thor, The Last King, Season 3. On Wednesday, we'll be doing Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune. On Thursdays, we will be doing Captain America, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. And on Friday, we will be bringing a new series to the channel, that being One Piece Rangers of the Sea. And also on Saturday, we are going to be adding another video slate. That is going to be What If Tanjiro Had Venom, Demon Slayer Dark Fury, Season 2, the Red Light District arc. So we have a lot coming up on the channel as we wind a lot of our stories down. There are going to be a lot more double video upload days if possible, mainly because I want to try to get through the content in a steady pace and not try to drag it out any longer than I need to. So over the next few weeks, you are going to be getting a couple of videos a day instead of just one. And I know a lot of people ask if I'm doing alright, if I'm doing okay, and I just want you to know I'm fine. I thank you for your concerns, really. But I want to try to get this, done in a steady pace, mainly because I'm going on a bit of a vacation towards the end of July, early August. I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break to kind of unwind. Because usually when I go on these stretches of video making, it's usually like months at a time that I go on them. Plus I have other work that I do outside of YouTube. So, I want to kind of take a break from all of that at the moment. So this is just a little heads up for what I'm trying to do. We're going to be going balls to the wall from here on to the end of July, non-stop action. We're going to get these slates of videos done. Then I'm going to go on my break. But when I come back, we'll start fresh going into the fall season. So that's everything you need to know, updates for the channel. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Following his training with Satoru Gojo, Yuji Itadori, before returning back with the other students of Jujutsu Tech, he would be assigned to help a close friend of his, that being a senior grade 1 sorcerer, a businessman named Kento Nanami, as he was investigating a trail of transfigured human corpses. As they began their investigation, they would find themselves at a cinema. At first, they had believed they had come into contact with cursed spirits that had been destroyed, but rather they were humans that had been transformed by cursed energy. Yuji was all too eager to show the fruits of his training and to show what he was capable of. However, Nanami would hold him back, not wanting the young student to potentially get himself harmed unnecessarily. Just then, 3 more curse-like spirits would appear. On Nanami's right hand, his wristwatch would transform into his rhino morpher. Yuji was shocked by this. However, Nanami would explain that he had no reason to morph now, and that he only morphed when it was absolutely necessary. No need to go into a hassle. He extended the blade of his rhino morpher as he used his curse technique, ratio, allowing himself to be able to strike and find the most vulnerable weak spot of his opponent, hitting it precisely. Yuji decided to take a page out of his senior's textbook. Instead of morphing right off the bat, he summoned his pair of nunchakas and would use the divergent fist technique, divergent blow, using his cursed energy through his weapons, amplifying it with the strength of the tiger, allowing him to strike and take out his opponents with 2 attacks at once. As they continued on in their investigation, they would learn that there was someone else who was here also, a young man by the name of Junpei. Junpei was a troubled youth, a boy who never seemed to know how to fit in. While he was at this cinema, the 3 humans that had been killed were actually ones who had bullied Junpei. Of course, there was a connection between the two, but it was obvious that the boy didn't have any affinity for curse technique, or so they thought. You see, the one who had killed them was a new cursed spirit, one named Mahito. Mahito was unique from most other cursed spirits, mainly because Mahito, he was birthed from humanity itself. The stitches across his skin, the fruitless points of trying to be human, of trying to understand the nature of humanity. For Mahito, his very existence was to show the true dark side of humanity, that humans only lie, and that there is no truth within them. That in the end, what you see on the surface is little more than a mask hiding what they truly are. Mahito spoke with Junpei, taking a liking to the boy, as he encouraged Junpei's already dark mindset, that humans could never have a heart, that there was no kindness in the world. He implored with the boy to move past feeling just indifferent towards people, to develop and foster his hatred, supporting everything that the young man felt. As they had gone their separate ways, this left Junpei with much to think and consider. In the meanwhile, Nanami and Yuji would also go their separate ways. Yuji attempting to track down the other boy who was at the cinema, while Nanami would follow the traces, the various corpses that would lead him to Mahito, the cursed spirit that they were after. His investigation would lead him to going underground, as he and Mahito would come face to face. Nanami would struggle a bit, despite Mahito being a newly formed curse. He was already on a high level of fighting, completely unaware of his true strength. As the battle raged, Nanami realized he was going to have to enter into overtime, a point where his cursed energy would be at its peak. As he summoned his Rhino Morpher once again, he would morph into the White Rhino Ranger. Mahito was impressed. He had heard so much about these Power Rangers before. Beings who are capable of not only using cursed energy, but also being able to use the animal spirit. Some called this the best of two worlds, but for Mahito, he called it hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, because how could two opposing forces possibly become one? Nanami didn't answer. After all, he chose not to dwell on such philosophy. He focused on the more logical side of life. If using these two techniques would allow him victory, he had no reason to question it. He would turn the tables against Mahito as he used his ratio technique collapse. In doing so, he would attack the entire area around them, crushing Mahito and burying him in the process. As Nanami would escape, he had hoped that that would be enough to take out his opponent, but he knew that they would be meeting again soon. In the meanwhile, Yuji would manage to find and talk to Junpei, as Junpei learned that Yuji was a Jujutsu sorcerer. Yuji would try to learn what happened at the cinema. Junpei would give an honest description of what he saw. He had nothing to do with it. Of course, not that he would have cared regardless to the people who had died. But all the same, he was taken aback by Yuji's laid-back and kind personality, since no one had ever treated him that way before. The two becoming close friends, to some degree. They went to Junpei's house, and Yuji even met his mother and offered him to stay for dinner. They all got along well, and they even enjoyed watching some movies together and just hanging out. As the night wore on, Junpei would ask Yuji if, as a Jujutsu sorcerer, if he was prepared to kill, since that was in the line of work. Yuji would admit that if he had the choice, he believed that all human life was valuable. He didn't want to kill if he didn't have to. Of course, Yuji would eventually leave, and he would tell Junpei that they could hang out again. As he left, Junpei's mother would find one of Sukuna's fingers on the kitchen table, unaware that its very presence attracted cursed spirits, and in the process would lead to her untimely death. As Junpei returned back into the kitchen, he would see his dead mother, and this would send him down into a spiral. However, unaware to Junpei, he was being watched. A woman camouflaging off in the distance. She felt the fostering hatred inside of the boy and believed he could be the perfect vessel. Mahito would meet with Junpei once again, influencing him to get revenge. Revenge against his classmates, against all the ones who mocked and scorned him. In his deranged state of mind, Junpei would agree. Taking the help of the cursed spirit, he would be gifted a gelatin-like shikigami. Taking it onto his own, he would return to his school, following the funeral service of his mother. Learning of what had happened to Junpei and his mother, Yuji would make his way over to the high school, learning of the commotion taking place. As he arrived, he would find Junpei assaulting his school bully Shota, preparing to kill him. As he approached, Junpei would tell Yuji to stay away, as he would send out an attack from the shikigami that he had been gifted. Yuji would fight it off as he morphed into the Red Ranger. His attacks being able to land and battle against the shikigami. Junpei would turn back and focus his attentions onto the ones of whom he had come to destroy. Yuji tried to reach out to him, telling him that it didn't have to be like this. But Junpei didn't listen, nor did he care. He thought that Yuji was just putting on an act, pretending to be compassionate. He asked how many times had he put that face on before. Was this the same run-of-the-mill speech that he gave to all those who were afflicted? For all he knew, Jujutsu sorcerers probably practiced it like it was nothing. But Yuji, he would strengthen his resolve. He assured Junpei that what he felt was real. He did have compassion and care for his fellow man, even for him. He didn't want Junpei to throw his life away on something as petty as revenge. This wasn't what his mother would want, what anyone would want for him. For a brief moment, Junpei was actually reached by his words. However, at that moment, Mahito would arrive. Mahito would tell Junpei that he shouldn't believe in what humans say, because in the end, the heart tells the truth. The mouth, it spews nothing but lies and contradictions. The heart is the only thing that tells the truth within a human soul, because the heart never lies. It is through the heart that one's own true feelings are revealed. As Junpei was approached by Mahito, Mahito's dark aura would form around him. He would finally start to realize that it was Mahito. Mahito was the one responsible for his mother's murder. This filled Junpei with a strong sense of rage, of anger, and of hatred. However, as he launched an attack towards Mahito, Mahito would grab him by the face, starting to transfigure and turn his body into that of a monster's curse. As he started to morph and transform, Yuji would be filled with objective horror, seeing someone that he actually had considered a friend had turned into something so hideous. Junpei begged for help, even in his monstrous form. Yuji tried to figure out what he could do. Something, anything. Yuji reached within himself. He tried to summon Sukuna. If Sukuna could reverse the damage that had been done, it could save him. But Sukuna refused. Sukuna laughed. He laughed at the pathetic boy for trying to rely on his power. You got a lot of nerve, kid. You think you can just lock me away and then pull me out for your convenience? And for what? To save another human brat? Fat chance in hell. You both can rot for all I care. Sukuna and Mahito would both laugh at Yuji as the monstrous Junpei approached. An explosion would occur instantly. A woman dressed in green would appear. Mahito had no idea who she was, although he could tell that she was not a cursed spirit, nor was she a human. And as for Yuji, he had no idea who she was either. But Sukuna was all too familiar. That bitch! Wait, what? So, you're still alive after all this time? Huh, Camille? Sukuna. So it's true. You have returned to the world of the living. No thanks to you, you stupid bitch. Just what the hell are you doing here? I should rip you apart. Do not be mad at me. It is not my fault that you are not strong enough to defeat my master. Well, I have no idea what's going on here. But you truly fascinate me. Mahito reached out his hand towards the woman, only to have his arm cut off from his body as she pulled out 2 of her scythes. After placing them back within their sheaths, she approached the transformed Junpei as she reached out her hand to him, placing it on his forehead. The monstrous boy would start to turn back into his human state. As he looked up towards her, he asked what was going on. Camille would explain that she came with a gift. If he truly wanted revenge, all he had to do was take her hand. Yuji would warn him not to do it, but in that moment, the only thing that Junpei cared about was destroying his enemies. Without hesitating, he reached out towards Camille. Camille took a box and placed it in the boy's hand. Brat, you better stop him from opening that damn box. But why? Because if he opens it, it's going to be hell on earth for all of us. Yuji wasn't sure what to do in that moment, but before he could even think, his body simply started moving. As he reached towards the box, Camille would kick him back as she transformed into her monstrous chameleon state. She looked towards Junpei, telling him to open it, to accept his destiny. Junpei thought it over. He thought about everything he had gone through, all of the pain and the suffering. If this was going to be what brought it to an end, then he was ready to take that chance. Yuji yelled, begging him to stop, but the box was opened. A glowing golden aura would emerge from the contents of the box, engulfing Junpei. Junpei fell to the ground, thriving in pain. A new presence was now unleashed onto the world. Mahito, now having healed his arm, and Nanami, who had arrived on the scene, would ask what had happened and just what was going on. However, once Nanami saw the woman that Yuji was fighting, he immediately pulled out his Rhino Morpher and morphed into the Rhino Ranger, backing up Yuji, as Camille went back towards Junpei. Junpei fell to the ground, and for a brief moment there was nothing but silence between the Jujutsu Rangers, between Mahito and Camille. They all watched as Junpei lay on the floor almost lifeless, as if he had been dead. But immediately, he would slowly rise and stand to his feet. As he looked up, he looked around the room. He looked at Yuji, Nanami, Camille, and then he turned back towards Mahito. So, you're alive, my friend. That's so good. I thought... Before he could finish his sentence, the avatar for the lion's spirit emerged, slicing Mahito's throat and knocking him out of the building as he went flying out of the windows and crashing onto the ground below. So, this is what it feels like to be back in the world of the living once again. Master Daishi, It has been far too long. And just what era are we in? I believe this is the 21st century, my master. The 21st. But when I was alive, we were only in the 4th. Has that much time truly passed? Indeed, my master. But the human population has only grown. As I expected, they multiply like maggots on the earth. And as for Sukuna, Camille would point to Yuji at that moment. Before Yuji could say anything, Sukuna would take over. Daishi, Sukuna. So you're in the world of the living as well. You're damn right I am. And this world's not big enough for the two of us. So how about I give you an introduction? You were that desperate to live that you would take the host of a child, a Jujutsu sorcerer, and a user of the animal spirits. Like you're one to talk. You're just as much of a hypocrite as I am. Oh, don't worry. This boy is but merely a vessel until I gain back my true power and find something more appropriate. I feel the same. Although I must admit, even though I hate this body and everything about it, he got into a stance as his red aura started to emit from himself. His animal spirit is pretty good, so eat it! The spirit of the tiger would come lunging towards Junpei, or Daishi as he was now. Junpei reached out his hand, and the spirit of the lion would go flying, attacking the spirit of the tiger. Yuji would briefly gain control of his body as he went flying out the window along with Daishi, Camille, and Nanami following after. All 5 combatants on the outside. Junpei would be encased in armor, the black and gold armor of the lion's spirit. Daishi had now reawoken into the world, and he was now getting accustomed to his new body and what it was capable of. He could feel traces of cursed energy, and he had to admit, even though he hated the cursed spirits, their power was exhilarating. Daishi would charge towards Yuji, Yuji trying to speak reason with him. Nanami would jump into the fray instantly, attacking with his ratio, attempting to go for the kill, attacking for a weak point within the neck, only for Daishi to dodge at the last moment and kick him back. Yuji asked what Nanami was trying to do. Nanami explained that now wasn't the time. He had to be taken down. Yuji felt a great sense of pain and sorrow within himself. Junpei was now in the same position that he was in. The two of them being taken over by forces far beyond their control, far greater than anything that they could possibly imagine. Both Yuji and Nanami would attempt to fight against both Camille and Daishi in a 2-on-2. That was until Mahito would jump back into the fray, as he attempted to get into the action also. However, Daishi, with traces of Junpei's spirit still within him. Do not be mistaken, Daishi hates humans and cursed spirits all the same, but he is still someone with a little honor. If there was one thing that he would do, he would honor Junpei's one request: to kill and destroy Mahito. Through the midst of the battle, as Mahito found himself being attacked on all sides by both Daishi, Camille, Nanami, and Yuji. He found it being a bit overwhelming until eventually he started to adapt as he fought. And in the process, he had actually managed to do something that none of them were expecting at all. He managed to use domain expansion, forming his own domain and attempting to trap them all inside, an effort that would prove to be fruitless. As the two spirit kings themselves, the king of cursed spirits, Ryonin Sukuna, and the king of the beast spirits in Daishi. If there was one thing they despised more than anything, it was anyone feeling as though they were superior. The combined strength of the red Jungle Fury Jujutsu Ranger and the cursed spirit energies of Daishi were more than enough to destroy Mahito's domain, crumbling it in its place as they attempted to destroy the cursed spirit. Now being gravely injured and having no choice but to retreat, Mahito would disappear from the battlefield. Yuji attempted to chase after him, however it was pointless. Both he and Nanami would turn to see both Daishi and Camille standing before them. As they looked on, Daishi was more than willing to continue the fight, and he prepared for another attack, when out of nowhere a gust of wind would blow all of them away, and landing before them would be none other than Connoisseur, one of the spirit beasts with the spirit of the hawk. So, Daishi, it is good to see that you are back in the world of the living. Connoisseur, you live now as well. Yes, thanks to your subordinate Camille, I have now found myself back into this world. I understand you wish to destroy them, but we have other matters to attend to. I see. Very well then. Yuji attempted to chase after them, but before he could, an army of Renshin soldiers would appear, amongst them being the one with the monkey spirit. As he transformed into his monstrous beast-like state, they were ordered to destroy the Rangers right then and there. Both Nanami and Yuji would fight against Ranma, the Monkey King, and his Renshin army. The Renshin were the foot soldiers of Daishi, and they were dispatched of pretty easily. However, as Yuji and Nanami attempted to fight against Ranma, the Monkey King, they realized that he would be a bit of a different story. He was almost impossible to hit, although Yuji, using his divergent fist, for the few strikes he was able to land, they were able to do double the damage than he could have possibly have imagined. And Nanami would take the lead. Fighting against an animal spirit was something he could handle, even if he did have to go overtime. In one fell swoop, he was able to cut off the head of the monkey spirit. However, this was not the end though. As the moment that the animal spirit was killed, it would enter into its second state, its kaiju form. Now towering to almost being the size of the school itself, Yuji wasn't sure what to do. There was a lot of things that the Rangers were trained for, but to form their animal spirits to its highest level, that was the one thing Gojo Sensei hadn't trained him on. But there was no need to worry. Nanami would take over from here, as he told Yuji to stay back. He would summon the Rhino Dagger, and call forth his Rhino spirit, eventually forming the Rhino Nexus Zord that entered into its Megazord state. Yuji watched on in awe as the giant Rhino mech battled against the monstrous monkey kaiju. Seeing a fight on this level was more than anything that Yuji could have imagined, and the idea that they were capable of doing something like this, now he had to learn how to try it someday. The battle was intense and much damage was done, although thankfully Nanami tried to keep it to a minimum. He used his ratio technique in his mech state, striking 3 times at the chest, finding a weak point in all 3 areas, before collapsing with the final Rhino strike, destroying the monkey kaiju and defeating him permanently. With the battle now over, Nanami would demorph along with Yuji as they turned back to the school. Thankfully, none of the students had died, but still, there was a great weight weighing upon Yuji. What was he going to do now? Someone that he truly considered a close friend was now in the same situation as him. And Nanami would contact the higher-ups immediately as to what was going on, Satoru Gojo being filled in on what happened first. As he closed his phone, Gojo would clasp his hands together. He was fairly confident in his skills. That wasn't something that he had to be worried about. But still, this made things a lot more trickier, a lot more complicated than he could have possibly have imagined. And Gojo knew fully well that the higher-ups were going to use this as an excuse to try to flex their power once again. The king of the cursed spirits, Ryonin Sukuna, and now the king of the beast spirits in Daishi, both had vessels. And it was only going to be but a matter of time before the vessels had to be dealt with. Now, the 3-way lock for power was about to start anew. And for the losing sides, it meant total annihilation. This concludes Jujutsu Kaisen, Curse of Daishi, based on the Heroes of the Morphing Grid series, Part 4. As always, if you're a fan of today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue. What if Bel Crenel was Thor, Danmachi, the Last King, Season 3, Part 2. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.